Hey guys, this is Connor with 4Runner Lifestyle. Today we're going to be installing the triple Fang light on this Toyota 4Runner, and this is what they are going to look like. We're going to go ahead and jump in and we're going to talk through the tools that we're going to be using today. So to take this cover off, we're just going to set this to the side for a second. We will be using that in just a minute, but we're going to come in and start popping these plastic caps, these push pins out, and just kind of work our way around in no particular order. So once you get all the clips removed, you're just going to pull this cover off and we're just going to set it to the side. And now we're going to get in here and we got a few more clips to remove. Okay, so we're going to start by popping these clips out on the top of the grill. There are 2 of them up here. And then you're going to come down in here and there are 4 more. There's 1 cable that's actually holding the bumper to the car, and we're gonna just release that, just disconnect that, and now we can move to the wheel wells. Okay, so we are going to remove these 3 10mm bolts, and then we're gonna release the plastic carrier. So we're just gonna start like that. Okay, we're just gonna snap these free now. And for the top, you actually pull the bumper down and out, and you'll see it kind of comes free off of that. Now we are going to take our plastic pry bar. We're going to release the plastic clips just one at a time, nice and easy. If you're really rough on these, they will break very quickly. So just kind of be patient with those. Once you get to here, you can kind of just pull the bumper free a little bit, just like that. And now you're going to have 2 more bolts right here underneath. Depending on how much off-roading you do, these may or may not be there. There's just 1 right here, so we're going to release that. All right, so we're going to use these same tools on this side. This is identical to the other side, so we're going to pull these bolts out and we're going to release the bumper. All right, so now you can see the bumper is pretty much all the way off. All we're gonna do now is we're just gonna lightly lift it off, free it up, and we're going to disconnect the fog lights so we can just lay this down. Yeah, so I've actually just lifted this up onto the bumper reinforcement and I'm just kind of holding it in place. And I'm gonna disconnect each side. You just have a little push and pull. We're gonna do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so we've laid down the sleeping bag as just kind of a way to make sure that the bumper doesn't get scratched up. It's entirely optional. We like to keep it, from getting scratched, so we just kind of laid this down to protect it. Okay, so we got our Fang lights here. We're gonna swap these out for the stock ones. So to do this, you either gotta take like a plastic pry bar or a little flathead screwdriver and just push down on the back of this tab, and everything's gonna kind of come out the same way. We're just going to kind of work our way around. Just like that, and the whole Fang light will just pop right out. Okay, so now we got to route the wiring up and through. So there's a nice gap between the fog light and the bumper. I'm just going to stick the Fang light underneath, feed the connector through just like that, and now the yellow wire. Now that these are both pulled through, we're going to pull all the slack out and pull the Fang light up into place and just snap it in. Okay, and one thing to kind of note is these Fang lights, the way they clip in can be a little bit different from how the stock Fang light clips in, and that's just normal. They just put in what they needed, so you're not going to be using this white clip anymore. We're going to repeat this on this side as well, and just the same way as we did before. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're going to route the terminals to the fuse box so we can plug into that and power the DRLs. And now we are going to separate the driver's side harness connection, and we're just gonna put that underneath the headlight and just rest it there for now. Now we're gonna take the passenger harness and we are going to run it across the front of the radiator. You wanna make sure as you're routing this that you put it anywhere where it's not going to rub. And once you've kind of routed that, got it under the passenger light, you're going to take zip ties and secure it to each point. Okay, so now we're going to use our electrical tools. We got some strippers, some clippers, and we're going to be using these channel locks to crimp these wire taps in. So what I'm going to do to start out is I'm going to reach up into kind of the space between the headlight and the fender, and you're going to be releasing this blinker right here. You can already see it moving. You twist it and then you pull it out, and then you just carefully bring it down. Okay, one thing to note with these incandescent bulbs is if you get a lot of finger oils on them, they will pop. So before you put this back in, just make sure you just kind of wipe them down to make sure you get all those oils off. And now we're going to come in here and you're going to be tapping into this blue wire. So we're going to be taking the wire tap, putting it around, and then sticking the yellow wire in. So it's going to look something like this once we crimp it in. Okay, so on the wire tap, you actually have this side right here where the clip is not, is actually a pass-through. So this side will go on the blue wire, and then the other side actually has kind of a block on it. So when you stick this wire inside of it, it will not be able to pass by. So you can see I'm pushing the wire in and it's not going any further. That's how you know that you have put the right wire in the right spot. So this is going to go on. We're just going to slide this bumper so we don't get too much tension on the wires. And we're just going to reach up here. I'm going to put this into the slot, push the wire up in, and then I'm just going to take these channel locks and just clamp it down, just like that. Okay, and then I'm just going to tug on this yellow wire, just make sure we got it, because sometimes it'll slide back down, and then I'm just going to lock it in place just like that. Now we're going to take this back up after we've wiped down the bulb. I have not touched the bulb yet, so we should be okay. I'm just going to go ahead and gently put this back up into the space. You're going to have to maneuver it around a little bit. Remember, once you get it into place, you still need to twist it. Okay, so we're going to do the exact same thing on this side, again using the wire tap and the yellow wire. This time we are going to have a different color wire since it's a different side. So we're going to pull this down, and we can see that we will be using we're going to be using this yellow wire. You can't really see it very well right now, but here's this yellow wire. We're going to be tapping in just like the same way we did on the other side. We're just going to tap in just like that. We're going to run the yellow wire in just like on the other side. Make sure it gets in there too. Okay. All right, so now we got to feed this back up in. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're actually just going to lift the bumper back up onto the bumper reinforcement. We're going to plug everything in, and then before we fasten the bumper back down, we're going to hook up the electrical and make sure that it works before we tidy everything up. Okay, so from the harness that we routed through the front of the car, we are now just going to plug this in. Really easy. There's only one way to do it, and you can't do it wrong. So you'll just plug it in just like that. And then we're going to go ahead and plug in the fog light now. And while you're doing this, just pay attention to this yellow wire. these can pull back out pretty easily. So our whole goal is to make sure this doesn't get too much strain on it. So now we're going to move over to the other side. Okay, now on this side, we are going to plug this in as well, just like that, and plug in the fog light. So we are now going to put the bumper on, and like I said, we're not going to tighten everything down yet, just until we've tested it. But we're going to put this back in place. We're going to take this 10mm bolt, and we're just going to thread it on. Okay, as long as it grabs, we're good. So now we're going to hook up the electrical. Okay, so now that we have the bumper kind of on, we're going to test the electrical and make sure it's working. So we're just going to talk a little bit about what's going where. So we're going to take an add fuse, and this is going to connect to this red wire. This is going to go on the INJ fuse of the fuse box, and I can show you where that is really quick. INJ fuse is going to be this fuse right here. So if you come in here to the fuse box lid, you can basically count down 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And that's on this vehicle, on the specific 4Runner. So you just gotta look for the INJ, and then you gotta match it up here. So I'm just gonna count, and we're gonna go and tap into this INJ fuse here. So that's where this add fuse is gonna go. It's gonna crimp on right here. And then this black is actually gonna go onto your ground. And then this white is actually for daytime use. So we're actually just going to cap this off. We don't usually use it, but we're just going to cap it off with a little bit of heat shrink. So if you got any laying around, or if the best you can do is electrical tape, you can just throw that on right there. Okay, so I'm just going to strip this wire a little bit longer now, and we're just going to kind of double it over and then crimp it in. So we're going to twist it. And we're going to crimp it down to the add fuse. We're going to crimp it twice, and then we're going to do a nice pull test on it to make sure that it's going to hold, just like that. And now we're going to hook up the ground. So we're going to just disconnect this. Okay, so we want to make sure that the terminal is nice and clean. I'm just going to kind of bend this a little bit and slide it right behind the battery lug, and just kind of slide it in. Okay, we're going to take the fuse puller now, and we're going to pull out that INJ fuse. Pull that free there. This INJ fuse is going to go into the add fuse now. Just like that. And then it's just going to plug right back in. Now that we have that, we're going to turn on the car and actually make sure that the lights work. Now that we have the wiring hooked up, again, we're just hooking up the red wire here, black wire to the ground, and we're capping off the white wire. Before we go in and turn on the car, we actually want to plug this connector that we disconnected back in before we turn it on. It's a pre-collision kind of unit, so it'll throw a code if you don't plug it back in before you turn the car on. Pretty sure you just plug it back in. You shouldn't have any issues, but we're going to plug it in just to be safe. So we're going to go ahead and turn the car on. We don't even have to turn it all the way on. We're just going to test the blinkers and make sure the DRLs come on. So we're going to start with our blinkers. So we're going to go left, then we're going to go right, and then we're going to turn on our DRLs. There we go. Then we're going to put the fuse cover back on and lock it down. So now that we have everything reinstalled on the fuse box, we've tested to make sure the lights are good. We are now ready to reinstall the bumper completely. So we're going to start, since we have one bolt in, we're just going to drop this other bolt in, and just kind of get that finger tight for a second. And now, since we're leaving this finger tight, we're actually gonna pop the bumper pieces back in so everything lines up, and then we'll tighten everything down. So we're just gonna come over here, kind of give it a nice little tap along the sides. See your lines line back up. Come over here and do the same thing. Just gonna lift it gently, just kind of tap everything in just like that. So now that everything's nice and, you know, it's fitting well, we're gonna come and just kind of check and make sure everything looks good. We're gonna tighten this up now, make sure we're in the right direction. Okay, that's tightened down. Now we're gonna drop these 4 clips back in, actually 6. You're gonna have 4 lower ones. Just make sure those click home. And you may have to just kind of push the bumper in a little bit. Just kind of help these in. Okay, and now we're gonna get these 2 on the top. So if you look and get kind of a closer look up here, you'll see that there's clips here. When we put the cover back on, there's gonna be another one here. So make sure you get that back one without the cover on. All right, so now we're basically just putting the cover back on, and we're gonna pop these anchors back in place. These are cheap, so they break pretty consistently. Like you can see, this one's got a broken prong. You can just buy new ones at the auto parts store. And we're just gonna go ahead and reinstall these. Okay, once you've installed all 12 of these clips, we're gonna go in, we're gonna reinstall all these bolts. Just remember, you're gonna have 3 on each side in the wheel well, and then you're going to have 1 to 2 on either side about right here. This little clip right here comes on these plastic fender liners. This actually is what they look like not connected. You have kind of an S shape. So this side of the channel actually goes on the plastic side, just like that. And then this other side kind of snaps in just like that. Okay, now before you bolt down, remember when we were pulling the bumper off, there's kind of this standoff piece of black where the bolt hole is. You just want to make sure that that's sitting snapped in, and we're just going to drop a screw right in to each one of these holes. And we'll just tighten it down. All right, we're just gonna repeat the same thing on the other side on this side, and we'll be good. All right, guys, thank you guys for tuning in and going through this install with me. If you guys want to see more install videos, please check us out on all popular social media platforms at 4Runner Lifestyle. You can also check us out on YouTube. We have tons of other install videos that we're doing as well, and they're super helpful for kind of going through and installing anything that you haven't done before, and we hope to see you again. Thanks.